don't think Chicago style pizza classifies as pizza.
What would you classify it as? What would you classify it as?
Like a casserole.
No.
You put the sauce on top.
No,
but it's still sauce. It doesn't matter. Yeah, like
all of the elements of the pizza are there.
If I can't pick it up with my hands and eat it, I can't pick it up with
it's just dirty.
I can, yeah.
Yeah, you just got to get under. I mean, it's the same thing. Like if you're making a ham and cheese sandwich, if the cheese goes before the ham, or the ham, like, does it change the sandwich? No.
Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is by you. Welcome back to the Underqualified Knuckleheads podcast. I am your co-host, as always, Mr. Daniel Keene. Joined with me today, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Andy Newman. How are we doing today, Andy?
I'm doing fantastic. Great job in remembering what you have to say. Dan, I'm just going to let people in on the cutting room floor. We're actually doing this post-interview, so we already know what we talked about. So we have a super, super cool guy where we just did have a super, super cool guy in the studio, Zoom room. I don't really know. Whatever.
Studio, something like that.
I don't know. Whatever. Quinn Isaacson, the Q-tip, the former setter, I do believe, if I remember correctly from our interview, for the men's volleyball team at Ball State University that just went super far in the NCAA playoffs and lost, sadly, in the championship. But he's over playing in France for some professional volleyball right now. So super cool to get to talk to him. Anything else, Dan?
Oh, he's actually in California right now. He's
in Cali. Yeah, he's in Cali.
Close enough to France. It's not in Indiana. Yes.
But he's playing professionally in France. Correct.
Yes. So he has signed a contract to play professional volleyball in France, but right now he's currently with the United States men's volleyball team set up, playing tournaments in South America, rubbing elbows with some of the great U.S. men's players. We talked to Quinn about his career at Ball State, his early childhood, and how his mom got him into men's volleyball. We talked about Chicago style pizza. We talked about first year head coach Donan Cruz. Talked about all of it.
And of course, I had to sneak in a little bit of football in there as well.
And we snuck
just my staple.
Just a little bit a little bit of football in there. We're not going to take up too much of your time. We're going to let Quinn and Daniel and Andy of the past do that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna segue into our interview with Quinn Isaacson. Welcome back to the Underqualified Knuckleheads podcast. I'm your co-host, as always, Daniel Keene. Alongside me is Mr. Andy Newman, and today we are joined by our special guest, former Ball State standout setter and team captain Quinn Isaacson for the men's volleyball team. How are you doing today, Quinn?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. I took an hour off work for this, so that's pretty good. Andy, how
I just got off work for this, so how about that?
That's a win.
It worked out for me.
Yeah.
Works out for everyone. If you didn't see it, I don't know how you didn't, but Quinn Isaacson and the Ball State men's volleyball team went on a storming run to the national semifinals. And I think you've been up to a few things since graduating and finally getting out of Muncie. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to?
Yeah. My path after Ball State got a little, we turned left a little bit. We were set to go to the University of Kentucky to coach women's volleyball. That was my goal. That was my plan. Still my future goal, but I had some really amazing opportunities we presented and decided so first off, I signed a contract to go play professional in France. So I'll be playing in the top division in France. With actually one of my fellow VNL team members, Kyle Ensing. So that's really exciting. And then on top of that, I took the opportunity to play for the VNL team here at Team USA. So I've been on the senior national team since we played the semifinal, I think it was like May 5th. And then I stayed in California and started training with VNL May 9th. So we just jumped right back into it. And then I've also been doing some Pan American Cup stuff, which when the team goes, if you don't make the travel roster, you do a lot of the Pan American stuff. So I just got back from Mexico probably a week ago. It's actually right here. I have my bronze medal and I ended up getting the plaque for our team. So I have it right here. Actually, I'm looking at it. But yeah, so it went from coaching to now, going at least one more year, and then obviously see how we go from there.
And then do you have any future plans in like maybe transferring and trying to get on like the U.S. national team or anything like that? Or trying to go to like U.S. sports or U.S. volleyball?
Not really. I shouldn't say there's anything wrong with that. I know a couple of my friends who go and play there, but a lot of the money is over in Europe and stuff like that. And I think if you want to compare yourself to the world, you've got to go try and play one of the top 4 leagues, being Russia, Poland, Italy, France, Germany. So getting that opportunity can really showcase my talent. And I guess if I want to see how high I can go with this thing, that's a good place to start.
Yeah, can you walk me through how some of the France stuff came about? I mean, you said you took a left turn. Did you just get a call one day like, hey, we want you to play for us?
Yeah, so before the season started, I had a couple opportunities when I was figuring out my volunteer or my assistantship position for coaching, I was getting a lot of conversations probably in October maybe. And it was kind of like this is when we're looking at volunteer assistants, or we're looking at assistants, paid assistants. So it's like, we need to know if you're going to try and go after pro. And I had a couple offers after my senior year in just some okay countries that I was kind of like, if I really like coaching, so these offers aren't super fantastic, I think I'm going to ride with it. And then obviously accepted that position. And then if I'm not mistaken, we're like in the mix of the MIVA tournament, right? We're trying to put together the finish to the season. And I got reached out to by, he's now the GM, but he was the head coach last year. And he's like, hey, are you interested in playing? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go coach. And then they kind of they explained the league, and there's a couple of guys that are like Agalos, who is now playing pro, and he's actually playing for the Greek beach national team. He's doing a really good job there, which is awesome. But they kind of showed me that this opportunity, especially for first year guys out of college, doesn't happen very often, especially first league in some of these big countries. So then that started happening, and then slowly other teams started reaching out, and then it was like, okay, I've kind of got to make a decision here of what we want to do. So luckily, I'm very fortunate. The Kentucky staff was they were very accepting of the opportunities that were given, and like, hey, take the time. Like, you only get to play once, right? When you're done, you're usually done. So they're very accepting of it. And then I came to that decision of, let's see kind of how far we can take this, and then we decided to go from there.
Has there been some sort of deferment with Kentucky? Like, are you still in agreement to coach with them when you eventually hang up and stop playing professionally?
I wouldn't say an agreement. The one thing I promised them was that they would be my first call when I was done. Was I would make sure to call them, which I was so excited to work with Craig Skinner and Anders Nelson. And I know they just had a third assistant come in, or second assistant, but I was pumped to coach with them. So I told them that's an easy yes. Like, they'll be the first team I call. And they said, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but we want to stay in contact with you. So I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Super. Okay. That's honestly super cool. I was unaware of like how like the foreign men's volleyball kind of all worked out. So
yeah.
You're in like one of the top upper echelon leagues. So you're playing up with some of the best guys in the world.
Yeah.
Can we see you in the Olympics? Is that like a possibility? Is there like any kind of like route that you could get there, that we could see you here soon?
So the VNL team is the Olympic team, basically. Like, when this kind of gets all going, when we get to that time. So for example, we take usually 99% of the time, we'll take 2 setters. So in VNL, it was me and 3 other setters. Micah Christensen, who's right now is the best setter in the world, which that's going to be a tough bargain. But the other 2 guys are guys that I grew up kind of watching. James Shaw, I think James is like 28, 29. We're actually on the same team right now for this Pan American. We're going one more Pan American Cup team or tournament. So James Shaw, and then Josh Tuaniga, who was a 2-time Volleyball Setter of the Year candidate. So there's a couple guys that right now it's us 4. So they're going to take 2, and Micah's probably the locked in guy. So it's going to come down to who can kind of win out that spot. So if I stick to it and everything like that, it's just going to come down to who wins that battle in whatever, a year and a half, or I guess 2 years now. But yeah, it's a possibility. It's just obviously you got to be able to jump those guys. But if it was easy, everyone would do it. So
that's super cool.
Yeah.
So how are the Pan Americans compared to the VNL stuff. Is it a lot different? Is it like a little more laid back? Do you guys do a little bit more promotion stuff, or is it just going down there and playing volleyball?
I would say it's going down there and playing volleyball. I think the skill level, I mean, obviously you're going from playing with the best, 14 guys in the country, and then you're playing with guys like, if I gave a number like 16 through 30, so there's not a huge drop, but a lot of the Pan American guys are guys you probably saw this year. Like a lot of them are college guys or some guys who have been part of VNL that just haven't gotten that jump. Like one of my roommates here, Pat Gaspin, was in middle for Hawaii. He won a national championship 2 years ago. He was on the VNL roster, made a travel trip, and then the last couple of trips, he's been down with us in Pan Am. So there's a lot of college guys. Caleb Jennis is here with Pan Am, so that's another Ball State guy, which is exciting. Parker Van Buren is a Loyola right side. Tyler Mitchum's now, I got to travel on every trip for VNL. So I say there's maybe a little bit of skill level, but honestly, the way that it's, at the end of the day, it's business. That's what we're here for. We're here to enjoy it, but we're trying to represent America and finish and medal. So as long as you can, win that battle of just mentality, that goes a long way, because the skill's there. Everyone there, the skill margin's this much. It's just, can you fill in the mental, emotional battle and everything like that.
Right. Can we backtrack a little bit just real quick? So are you in America right now, or are you not in America right
now? I'm in LA right now. Okay. I'm in Anaheim. Yeah, I'm in Anaheim right now.
All right. So you're just completely other side of the country. All right, got it. So basically not.
Yeah,
for
that
me.
Was me. Yeah, we were we train our training centers down here. When did we leave? July 9th through the 16th. We were in Mexico. So we were in Mexico for 10 days, and then here in about July 27th. So in about a week, not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday, we'll go down to Canada, which the tournament was supposed to be kind of like the same thing it was in Mexico, but now it's turned into a world ranking tournament. So now teams are sending more of their ones. So like, for example, we'll see Cuba's ones and Canada's ones, and it turns into a 12-team tournament. So now we'll see Brazil and Argentina and Poland and some of those teams. So now we'll really get to see like kind of that compare. We're not sending out our top VNL guys, like the ones who just got back from the VNL finals, but we're sending like the majority of our guys. So now we'll see kind of how we rank of like development and stuff like that. So that's exciting.
Cool.
So going back to kind of where it all began for you, volleyball's not always considered traditionally a men's sport. Only this year did Indiana start to recognize it as a high school varsity sport. How did you find and fall in love with volleyball?
My mom, big time. So when I was born, my mom played collegiate volleyball at Western Michigan. I think when she had me, she played there for 2 years and then transferred to Lewis University and played there just to be closer to home. And then once she was done, she got a head coaching job at a high school around where I'm from in Naperville. And she head coached that team for, like 10 to 15 years, and then took a break for like 2 years and then came back. So like literally from since I was born till about like 8 or 9 years old, it was like going to practice with her. And I didn't really know what was going on during the practice, but I enjoyed watching it. So like that was the start. And then slowly as they started to like see the girls play, I was like, all right, I want to try and do some of this stuff. So I would like pass with them and set with them and all that stuff. So that's how I kind of got started. And then she started her own club. My mom did. And it was pretty easy of like, okay, if I'm going to play for anyone, I'm going to play for her club. And that's how I think I was like 10. I think I was 10 years old playing at a 12-year-old team. So I played up 2 years, and I did that 10 to 12, 11 to 13. And I think I did 12 to 14. And then I played 14s 3 years. So I played 13, 14. We just kept going through people looking for like the right group. And then we find a good group of guys that I ended up playing all the way through with.
Gotcha. So, okay. So is in Illinois, that's where you grew up, correct?
So
is men's volleyball or boys volleyball a high school sport? Like, or is it a club? It is.
No,
it is.
Yeah. It's pretty dang competitive. I would say California's first. And then I would say the Chicago area second, because we had my 4 years, or my 3 of my 4 years that I was there, the winner of the Illinois State Championship, like Glenbard West, who had, I think just in their varsity lineup had like 10 Division I men's volleyball players, and they were ranked. They lost one game in 3 seasons, and I think they were ranked 3rd in the country as a high school team. So, and just like the rank, there's a lot of good California. There's also a ton of California teams, but the Chicago area specifically has a lot of good teams for high school volleyball and club volleyball.
And I didn't even know that Indiana was even doing men's volleyball for high school now. So awesome. I'm the only Indiana guy here. So if anyone from my high school administration is listening, Carroll High School will be very, very good at men's volleyball. We've been talking about it for years. So I'm ready. This is very good. I'm liking it. I'm ready to see that.
How quickly did you know that you wanted to do this at the next level, and when did recruiting kind of pick up?
I would say like you go through high school, and through high school I played volleyball obviously, and then I played basketball as well. And basketball was fun. It was just an easy sport that I could be athletic in, like jump high, rebound, pass the ball. That was easy for me. So I was like, oh, this is something we can do. And then probably like my 16th year, I was very undersized. So I was playing a lot of I was setting, but I knew I wasn't gonna be able to do that at the highest level. And then hit a growth spurt from like, I was like 5'9" my freshman year to like 6 foot my sophomore year, and then 6 foot to like 6'2", 6'3" my junior year. And then from that point forward, my sophomore year, I got recruited to Lewis. That was my first official visit, my first official, I guess, offer. But it was kind of like, we don't know, like, are you going to grow more? I'm like, I have no clue. So it's kind of like an offer of being like, well, we'll see what happens. But like, we like the way you play volleyball. You can play libero if you don't grow. If you do grow, you can stay the setter. If you grow even more, you can hit. Like, it kind of opened up a lot of doors. And then mainly for men's volleyball players, your 17th year, so your junior year is like that's your recruiting year. You get talked to a lot by coaches throughout that whole season. And then the summer happens where nationals is. And then the second nationals is done. The rules have all changed now. Now these coaches can talk whenever they want. That must be nice for these players. At the end, you couldn't talk to them until the end. So the coaches are waiting for you, or you're having to wait and postpone your flight so you can talk to all these coaches. Now they can just kind of talk to you whenever, I think. But and then at the end of the tournament, it's like, hey, we're interested. Here's a camp. You go to like the 3 or 4 camps you're interested in, and then usually get offers by the end of it and decide where you want to go.
And then where did Ball State kind of come in? Like, was it just like out of nowhere, or was Ball State with you after Lewis, or how did that kind of go?
Yeah. When I was going through, me and actually some of my teammates wanted to go to a big time Division I camp. And I remember Loyola was during something that we were doing as a team, and Lewis was so close. We've been to that camp multiple times. So Ball State was the closest big time school that we could go. So me and my club teammates went my 16th year. It was more of just like, we've seen them walk around our courts. Like, it'd be cool to go to it. So we went to it, and then they showed kind of some interest there of just like the same thing that Lewis was saying, was like, we'll kind of see how it goes. It was kind of more talk about being a libero, to be honest with you. And then invited me back to the 17th year. Some of the guys from my club team came, not all of them, but then it was more of like now you're kind of competing for an opportunity to play here, because they brought in, like, I came in as a setter and they brought in 2 other setters. Like, you could start to see like, okay, we're here, yes, for camp, but we're here to get recruited. Like, one of you is going to get chosen. One of you is going to get chosen. I know I was there with Zach Nielsen, who ended up committing, Ryan Dorgan, who ended up committing, Will Hippie, who ended up committing, Colin Enslaka was already committed, and Ben Chinese was the only guy who wasn't there that ended up committing later after that camp, who all guys I came in with. So then I went to that camp and I had a good showing. And then I think a week later was when they called and offered me, and it was between Ball State, Ohio State, and then I had some talks with BYU that I was it was kind of late that they started talking to me. So it's kind of too late to really start to go into that area unless I really wanted to do it. And then between Ball State and Ohio State, just the opportunity at Ball State and the coaches at Ball State. And I mean, once hearing that a lot of really good coaches have been produced through there, that kind of made it easy for me to be like, okay, this is the place I want to be. But I have an Ohio State roommate and a couple guys I play with on these teams that are like, oh, that would have been cool if it came. I'm like, well, no, we like Muncie a little bit better. Sorry, Columbus. We'll take Muncie over it.
Yeah, I don't know about that necessarily. Muncie.
We had Drew Plitt on last week, and I was very hesitant to let him know that I'm from Michigan and I'm not the biggest Ohio fan, just in general. Just a quick follow-up. You mentioned BYU, and for our audience, I covered the men's volleyball team this year, so I got to get to know Quinn really well and the whole setup. But I remember watching, I think it was the first BYU game. I think it went to 5 sets. And I remember the moment I remember is it was this one shot from like across the court, and it's you stepping back to serve, and there's like BYU college students like half a foot from you. Can you talk about that environment? Because I don't think I've ever seen that type of environment in sporting.
BYU is a really fun but difficult place to play, because the only camera you see, if you watch any BYU live stream, you see it's like 10 rows, and there's probably like a total of like 100 seats. That's the only thing they show. But on the side, there's standing room only for the students, and then there's there's seats along the side, and then where the camera's at, everything behind it is like, oh man, they could probably fit like 4,000 people behind it. You don't see it. You only see the like probably the 100 to 200 people in front of you. You see some of the fans, and then that's all you see. But little do you know, there's like 4,000 seats that everyone fills out. And BYU is a lot of fun, and I have a special place with BYU because BYU is actually my first start at BYU. Like, welcome to the show, have fun playing in this crowd. It was like that moment for me. And it was like our fourth match my sophomore year. I got the opportunity. It was right. We just played Stanford. It didn't go very well, and they gave me the opportunity to start against BYU. And they told me, like, man, maybe 30 minutes before the game, I'm like warming up on the 2 side. Like, I'm like, all right, here we go. And then Joel Walton's like, hey, you're starting tonight. I'm like, well, gotta change the mindset here. I'm like, no, we're playing in 30 minutes. But no, it's really cool. And I've always said Hawaii is probably the number one coolest place to play, just because the way that they pack it out, the way that they really love the sport is awesome. I've always said Worthen was number 2, and then I've said that BYU was number 3. I might be a little biased on Worthen, but BYU is definitely one of those top 3 places that, like, big crowd, loud crowd, where you can kind of, have a fun time with it. It's definitely pretty special.
And not
and I would assume. Oh, my bad. But I would assume that a couple other reasons for why Hawaii is probably one of the best places to play. Maybe not just volleyball. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I think there's a little bit to it. Most of the time you're there for business, but you can walk outside and enjoy it a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, not biased towards men's volleyball or anything, but the times I've been in Worthen Arena, it's been most full during volleyball matches entirely.
Yeah.
It's a volleyball school.
Yeah.
But speaking
totally
speaking of Joel Walton, when he retired at the end of the 2021 season, I know the coaching hire of Donan Cruz was very quick, but were there any, not ideas or any feelings that you might want to transfer for your final year or look elsewhere? Or
not really, to be honest with you. The one thing that's really special about this group is, and I think that's one thing that me and the rest of this class have left, is like, we're really close as players. Like, I couldn't imagine myself leaving the guys that I had there. Like, I have some of my best friends that are either still there or just graduated with me. So it's like, I didn't think it ever really crossed my mind. I had some other people, because you can do it without having to sit out here. So I definitely had some like players like, hey, what are you doing next year? I'm like, okay. Like, some from out here, they're like, dude, California weather's nice. I'm like, hey, well, I don't really know. We'll have to figure it out. But I was on the I guess we'll call it a board, but it was me and 2 other players for the head coach interviews. So I went through that. We had 3 main candidates, and obviously Dona being one of them, and went through the process. And I liked all 3 candidates, and I was just kind of like, oh, it'll be interesting. I was like, I'm happy I'm not making this decision. I'm like, dude, these are all 3 good. I mean, they all know how to speak well. They're all head coaches somewhere. They were head coaches, so they all know how to speak well. So, but he was one of them, and I was like, he was a little bit different than the rest of them, just a little bit more mellow, and that could worry some people, but that could also like be like, if he doesn't. That was one thing I remember clear as day in his interview, was like, he said, I'm a very mellow guy, but I know how to turn it on. And I've heard that before out of many coaches, and either it's always turned on or they're too mellow. So I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I'm not sure about this guy. And then he gets signed, in like the first month, it was like exactly to a T of what he explained. Like, mellow, exactly what he needs to be. We're slacking off. Boom. Like, here he comes out of nowhere. And the respect that you have for him is like, when he kind of gets after you for a second, it's like, but he has all the trust in the world for you. But it's just like, he's letting you know he needs more out of you, and your understanding of it.
Yeah. So, do you know? Oh, sorry. Go, Andy.
Yeah. So can you explain a little bit more of that relationship between the 2 of you? Obviously, you were like in your last year. You're a veteran. You're a captain, and then he's obviously a new head coach. How does that kind of work and mesh?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really, really well. Like, me and him, I think we've texted, I mean, probably every other day since I've been here, just either checking in, or like when I came back, I had a couple days off between training blocks. Then I went back to Muncie, and he came, and I got some work in the gym, and he was there, and we went to lunch with him. Like, we're very, very, and that's the most impressive thing to him is like, he could have looked at the future and been like, okay, like, yes, I have these guys for one season, but I have to get this team ready to go for the like multiple seasons past. But like, he took all of us like super seniors or even seniors that are graduating like under his wing of like, we're going to do this together. I understand this is how it's going to work. So I thought the transition was as smooth as can be. Like, he was open to how we did stuff before. It was like, how did we do this? How did we train this? Blah, blah, blah. He was like, I think this is a better way. And I think as players as well, we did a good job of opening up to their new ideas too. Like, it's a two-way street. Coaches have to be able to do it for the players. Players have to be able to do it for the coaches. And I think we did it pretty dang well. As like the relationship now of like, I think I'll be back. I think we get back from Canada the 16th, and then I'm going to be in Muncie for the first exhibition game. I think the girls play Fort Wayne on Saturday. I'm going to go for the week just because I didn't really get a proper goodbye from everyone because I just stayed in Cali after it. So I saw some of the guys after I left. We all obviously like after the game hugged it out and stuff like that. But like the girls team, like we're really close to the girls team. I didn't really get to say bye to them, some of the coaches and trainers and all that stuff. So I'll be back that weekend. But like we've already planned lunch and possibly golfing Saturday morning. Like he's a good guy to have in your corner. So I was happy that he was our coach.
Yeah, just back on the hiring process for a minute. Who are the other players on the kind of selection committee with you? And
Mhm.
was it kind of there for show, or were you guys actually providing input?
No, we were asked to bring 5 questions every single time. So it was me, Will Hippie, and then Brandon Shepard. We were asked, and like I said, every interview we had, I think it was like 3 to 5 or something like that. And we didn't want to take all their time up because we knew they were touring the campus and stuff like that. But we had 3 to 5 questions we asked, and we kind of got our answer. Like I still have my notes from it of like I was kind of like trying to like listen to them, but I was really typing. Like I was trying to get like put stuff down. And usually after every interview, we would FaceTime as the guys and be like, all right, what do we think? Because Kaylee and Beth would always, all right, what do you like once they're gone, like, what do you guys think? And we'd kind of give our 2 cents. But no, it was productive because we were asking things that we thought could change our team, could change the culture or keep the culture, I should say. Because I really think by that time we were in a good spot. It was just kind of excelling it a little bit. So no, it was pretty productive. I think the guys, we appreciated it because we kind of knew what was coming, but we asked them those questions. And most of the time it was like the same questions that we thought were important to each candidate and how we liked obviously their answers, stuff like that.
And then do you remember who the other 2 coaches were, and have they found head coaching jobs outside yet?
One of them is on the women's side, and I think he's an assistant at a big time school. I don't know exactly where he's at. And then the other one, I don't know if he's coaching anymore. And I think I talked to him a little bit after, and it was just because he's applied. It's tough because I'm pretty sure he's applied to multiple head coaching spots, and it was just like one spot off every single time. And he's really good at it's funny because I didn't really even know this coach, but we started talking after the fact, and like then we have a pretty good relationship now. And I think he was really good at recruiting. So I think now he's working somewhere and like bringing people into businesses. He's like, dude, I love it. I'm like, oh, well, there you go. But yeah, those were our 3.
Gotcha. And then just after there was a whole like big stretch that you guys had throughout the season, you won the MIVA tournament, then you went straight to the NCAA tournament. Could you talk about just that kind of time? How crazy was it? Crazy? Was it hectic? Were you calm, collected? Like, did you expect everything? Just kind of talk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, this year was obviously very unique because you come into every season saying like we have a chance. You always put that confidence in your head, but usually you get halfway through the season, you hit some bumps in the road, your confidence starts to waver. Some guys pull away from the group, not because you get checked out after a long season. So this season was a little different. Obviously, you pull out those 2 wins at home against Hawaii. We pull out one against BYU on the road, which any wins against BYU at BYU are huge wins. And you just start to see this confidence start to build. And it's like you go from obviously the 6 or 7 guys in the court, but the big difference you saw was like the 14 guys on the bench, we were all kind of one unit. And I think that's what really makes or breaks the team is when you have those guys pushing just as hard as the guys on the court. It's really easy to practice hard, train hard, lift hard, all that stuff. But when we go through the week, obviously we find out we are hosting. We had a confidence, and I know we had 1 loss to Loyola at home this year, but we had a confidence that if we could host, that we had it. Like that was kind of our mindset. If we could have all 3 games at home, that even if like obviously Loyola got us 2 times, but if Loyola came to our gym in the championship game at home with the crowd we'd have, we were ready to go. Like we were pretty confident. But easier said than done, right? So we came out, kind of took care of business against the Quincy, play a good Lewis. Tyler Mitchum's actually one of my roommates. He's probably sleeping right over here. But we knew Tyler was a threat, and we knew that team was young, but at any point those teams can pop off, and we're able to handle them. I think that second set we handled them pretty well, and it was hard for them to come back through that third. And then we turn on our phones and see Loyola get swept, which was like, what just happened? Like, it was like we were fully, not that we didn't think Fort Wayne could beat Loyola. We just thought that like this storybook was kind of leading to us getting the third chance at Loyola at Worthen. And then obviously we checked the phones, they got upset. And now we're thinking, okay, we get Fort Wayne, who beat them the first time at home in 5, beat them the second time in 4. And it was like, man, this is going to be a tough game. And obviously Jim Paolonis, our old assistant's on that team. And we know he's just as pumped as we are, and he knows some of the ins and outs of what we do. But we felt pretty confident that what we were doing as a team at that time was going to be really hard to stop for anyone in the country. And first set, obviously close. And then once we got that one under our belt, we were feeling pretty good. It was always that first set. The whole year was the first set. Like if we took care of the first set, we were good. If we lost that first set, it was like, okay, now we've got some work to do. But yeah, after it was pretty crazy. And I think that's one thing Donan did a really good job of, was like, he's like, a lot of coaches would tell you like, eyes on the NCAAs now. It's like, yes, we're focused on it, but like this hasn't happened in a really long time, and this is really hard to do. Like winning any championship, conference championship, NCAA championship, like really hard to do. So it's like that we need to take some time to appreciate it. I know, like obviously it was Saturday night, Sunday night we had the whatever it was with the seeding banquet, I guess, what do you call it? Monday was just kind of like a rollout day, and then I think we came in the gym on Tuesday, and I knew we were in a good spot because it was like the players that were like, okay, it's go time. Like coaches kind of came in. I don't know if they came in with like let's slowly work back into it, but the guys were like, let's get going. Like we're ready to now take another step of trying to get to that championship game.
Yeah, and then my bad. I'm just going to say real quick. I know I'm currently just about when you brought up obviously Purdue Fort Wayne because you had to. Yeah. I'm currently in Fort Wayne, and usually I'm one of the guys that are go Dons. But thankfully, I was at that game, and that was one of the coolest games of volleyball, at least that I've ever seen. Sporting events, at least. Like there were so many people there, and it was an electric crowd. It was super fun. And I may have been out of like illegally kind of gotten onto the court, but, whatever. And it was super fun. Like the atmosphere was super cool. So I really enjoyed that. It was really fun to see from a fan perspective, at least.
It was pretty exciting.
Yeah. So Quinn, you saw me on the court after the game. I remember you ran up with the all tournament ball in your right hand and the trophy in your left hand. Yeah. You said something along the lines of, "I've been waiting for this one," because we're about to start the interview. Andy had come down and he was like, "Do you need pictures or something?" And I was like, "Sure." And he goes, "Okay, I'm just gonna hang out by you." So that's how we make it. I think Loyola, the second regular season game when they beat you on their turf, it became it was the regular season wasn't in your hands anymore. It was kind of both of them had to win their next game. How thankful are you for Ohio State?
Oh, trust me, I've told Jacob multiple times here that they were big this year for us because we obviously get lucky and we play them twice. We played them at their place, didn't play a great match, but just scrapped out. That's kind of one thing we've talked about the whole year, is that we found ways to get wins out. And I don't know, we worked hard for that winning 5. Then that next game was the Don Chandel Memorial, and we weren't going to lose that game. That was not going to happen. So we got them there, and then like I said, they go and beat Loyola, which allows us to play. And Ohio State was a really good team, so we were kind of like, because they were on our side. So I'm like, okay, them versus Lewis. I'm like, we've gotten Lewis twice and we shut Lewis, but we're still worried about them. And I was like, Ohio State, that's not a team you really want to play. And then Lewis ended up having a better night. And we're like, wow, like they really helped us out here. They set us up there. And then Lewis obviously played a little bit better. But I think right when my first day with Jacob, I was like, hey man, appreciate everything you did for us. He's like, yeah, you're welcome. I'm like, all right. But
and then for clarification too, so you guys won the MIVA, not the MAC. And then I know the MAC is generally like the conference or all Ball State stuff, but the MIVA is something different for men's volleyball.
Yep.
Is that purely because there's a fewer amount of volleyball teams, men's volleyball teams just in the country? So would you like there to be more men's volleyball programs across the nation so you can have more competition, or I'm cool with where I'm at?
No, I think, and one thing that happened this morning, actually, which is really big news, is that they decided to, they're going to vote on it, I think, next summer. But if all approved by 2024, there'll be 12 teams that make the playoffs for NCAAs. That got ABCA tweeted that out this morning. But you're starting to see a lot of teams start to like build, like at least the start is club, like creating club programs and then starting to expand. But you're slowly starting to see a lot of teams, especially in the Midwest, where there's talk, I think, in the next couple of years that the MIVA might split up to be like this, because we have a couple of D2 schools that play Division 1, like they're D2 schools, but Division 1 volleyball that might start staying with the D2 schools, and then it'd be like us, Ohio State, Loyola. I think Penn State would come up. Like we'd have kind of our own little area here. So yeah, I think that would be great for the game. I know obviously like the funding is obviously the big problem, but I think the biggest thing that we've talked about is like being around these athletes and everyone here is like all our goal is just to like, we want people just to see the way we play. Because yes, obviously you've seen women's volleyball, and women's volleyball is very exciting, but there's just something to the men's game of just some of these freak athletes that get on balls, and you see Caleb Jennis touching like close to 12 feet and putting the ball away. It's like you just see like it's a whole different feel. So if that was always our thing. That was kind of a thing we did this year with like fans. It was like just get them in the gym for a game, and once they have a little bit of fun with it, like getting that crowd in Hawaii, like having people see it, then allow them to come to different games and give us different crowds and stuff like that, which I think was big.
Mm-hmm. And then, so they're expanding it. They're going to vote to expand it to 12. I think it was 7 teams this year. And for a lot of non-volleyball viewers, my biggest problem when tweeting about the NCAAs is explaining to people how the playoff bracket worked. Do you think there could be some improvement in the oddity that is the playoff bracket for the NCAA?
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. It's so confusing.
Yeah. I think by them expanding it is a huge step, because I think there'll be another, I think by the time 2024, I think there might be another conference added. I could see that happening, especially I think in this Midwest. I think they might split us and take us some of the D1 teams and D2 teams. They'll still play D1 volleyball, but just by school base. And but I think that'd be big if we end up having 6 conferences by that time. The winner of that conference gets to move. So that's your top 6. Now they might not be the top 6 seeds, but that's 6 spots that are in it. And then you have 6 at large, which puts 12 out of your whatever 50 teams in there. Just because like you saw upsets the whole year. Like Lewis, who was at that time ranked 13, goes to UCLA at UCLA, who's number 2, and sweeps them. And you've got obviously us getting Hawaii at home. You have Ohio State beating US. Like upsets do happen. There obviously but like upsets do happen. I think it just makes it more exciting. You can take an out of season weekend out of it, like shorten the season by a weekend, expand 1 or 2 more games, and it makes more like that week of NCAA training, like it just makes it a little bit more fun, right? You're watching more games. It's a little more sport. You have more time to recover. I think that'd be a huge thing, is like, instead of you playing Friday, or let's go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like a day, you might get 2 days because there's other games going on. And I think it's big. I think with them adding 6 teams, you might have a couple teams that slip through the cracks, but then you get your main chunk of teams, at least your top 8 in the mix. And then you get to see like, okay, the MIVA second team just beat MPSF's third team. Like they got in, like, let's see how that compares and everything like that. So I'm excited for those guys.
So going back a little bit to coaching, throughout the whole interview so far, you've come back to coaching and talked about coaching. And we know that I think you coached at both Club 1 and Muncie Burris throughout your college days and your time in Indiana. How important is the aspect of coaching volleyball to you compared to playing?
I don't know. I have a lot of people who tell me like, obviously you want to play until you can, pretty much, because you can't really go back. You can coach for the rest of your life. But coaching is really important to me because all my family, like my mom has been a coach. My dad's obviously Division I football coach. My stepdad has played collegiate baseball. He's coached a varsity high school baseball team for 20 years, football for 10. My stepmom played college field hockey. So it's just around my whole family. It's around my whole family. And I think like one thing I was telling, I forgot who I was talking to the other day, but when you grow up with coaches as parents, like the coaching tactics, like they don't change. Like they go into your parenting. So it's like I don't remember the example I have. I think I was like meeting with a coach or something like that. And my mom's like, keep your eyes on him. like it's always something like, so you kind of learn through that. And then one thing I've always been taught, and it's just through like coaches that either played for or trained for or anything like that was like, by expanding your mind of the game, like the sport that you play allows you, like having another coach, you know, quote unquote, on the court or on the field or anything like that, like just changes the way your team can run a little bit. Like Donan's always, one of the games he appreciated was just like, he's like, I know we have like another coach out there. He's like, I can almost sit back sometimes and I know you'll find some of the stuff or figure some of the stuff out. So I think it was big just for my game in general, but just kind of what I've learned and was taught through, you know, with my family and stuff like that, and carrying on that, which I'm excited to do.
All right, and then you mentioned that your dad is a D1 football coach.
Yep.
Talk me through that. Where is he at? What is he doing?
He's the head football coach at Western Michigan in the MAC.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sweet. I do have a friend that plays wide receiver over there. So if you get Cam Hedgecock a couple more throws, let your dad know that. Get him in there a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's right. So did Western Michigan not have a volleyball program at all?
No.
Do they not? Okay.
No.
So that's So if they would have, would you have possibly gone to Western Michigan?
Possibly, yeah. And it obviously would depend on what maybe like, or if they're in the same conference as the MIVA, what division they would be technically as a volleyball school. But if they were in the same caliber of what Ball State was, it would have been an interesting discussion. Just because, like, I knew Ball State with growing up, because my dad played at Western Michigan as well. So like, I knew about like all the MAC schools. So it definitely would have been an interesting conversation.
Were you ever swayed a little bit to play football or even try it out? Or
I tried it out for a little bit, but not for very long. My dad's always said that if I started too young, and then if I would have started later, I probably would be playing college or football instead of volleyball. But I was pretty happy with where we're at currently. But I think he didn't persuade me. That was one thing I appreciate with my parents. They never persuaded me to play any sport. It was never volleyball or baseball or football or anything like that. It was just like whatever you want to. That's why I got into basketball. Like, my dad played high school basketball. That was about it. So I was like, all right, there's no really connection here in basketball. I kind of want to start playing it. So, but no, not too much.
So you grew up in Illinois, correct? But your dad's the head coach at Western Michigan. Was that post you growing up in Illinois, or did he commute, or how did that all work?
So my mom and my dad, they split up. They never got married. They had me when they were dating, and then they split apart. So he lived up in Michigan, or he's been living up in Michigan. But he's had multiple. He was at Western. He's been at Western for the past 5 years. He was at Purdue for 1 year before that. He was in Syracuse for 5 years before that. And then he was at a couple D3 schools around where I was from. So I got to see him a lot more often. But I lived with my mom and my stepdad, and that was like where I went to high school and everything like that. And then I would commute to him wherever he was at, just because, as I've learned, collegiate coaching, like you don't have much free time. And that was the risk I was getting ready to take. But now we can postpone it for a little bit more time.
Definitely.
But
and then Western Michigan just won a bowl game, did they not?
They did. I was there. It was in Detroit, actually. It was at Detroit's Ford Field.
That's super cool.
Nevada.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. I did a lot. I was doing a
lot. Do you have a favorite story just of all of your time at Ball State? Kind of one moment that just stands out to you as a volleyball player?
That's a good question. It's hard to not choose. It's funny because this year has been very like storybook. Like everything we've talked about since we got here as freshmen, like kind of all panned out to that moment. So like beating Hawaii at home twice in front of that crowd would be hard not to choose. And obviously, I don't think I could live with myself if I didn't choose winning the MIVA championship, because that was the main goal all the way through college. But the one moment that I shouldn't say doesn't get talked about enough, but for me would definitely be on that list is my junior year beating Loyola at Loyola for the first time since 1999. And it wasn't because I had buddies on Loyola, but they just knew they had it on us. And they went up 2-0, and you could tell they thought it was over. And then we go and beat them in the third set, down 17-12 in the fourth set, flip the script, end up winning 26-24. And then we side switched when that was a thing at like 8-2. Like we had them in the fifth set, and you could feel like we had a bunch of fans there. But winning that game and breaking that curse of not winning at Loyola since, well, I think it was 1990. It would have been the 20th year, so 1999, and winning that first one at Loyola. It's not with the MIVA championship, but it's really close. And everyone talks like, how could that be? I'm like, you don't understand how good that felt. I was like, winning there, knowing they thought they had it, and then flipping it on them was pretty cool. But I would say the MIVA championship was everything that we trained for and wanted. So I think that makes our storybook career at Ball State.
Right. And then right before we get to hot takes, which is I think is going to be our next little segment here.
Okay.
So I know that in Illinois, it's obviously, as you've said, men's volleyball is very, very big. But in Indiana and other places, obviously, it is not as big. I've been a pretty big proponent for men's volleyball for a long time. I got to meet Roy Ball, take a bite of his gold medal. That was super cool. Yeah. So, and I respect, and I know a lot of my friends respect men's volleyball. What is your message to those people that are kind of like, it's volleyball is not really my thing? Like, how do you explain to them that volleyball is insanely cool? Like, what is your thoughts? Message?
Well, I just say, think about the sport. Like we are passing or digging balls that you at a closer range not the same exact, like we're digging balls that are 85 to 90 miles per hour at like a 15-foot speed up in the air off our body. Like people ask you to use your hands to set, but like you're using your body to keep a ball alive that's coming at you like 75, 80 miles per hour. And my number one thing I always say about specifically volleyball, or volleyball, specifically men's volleyball, is like, step on the other side and let's see if you can pass a ball. Like just pass, like a simple skill that we do every single day, that we train every single day. Let's see if I spin a ball at you, even standing. Can you put the ball in the middle of the court? Because like, I'm not saying these sports are any easier, but I can catch a football. I can throw a baseball. I can hit, like hitting baseball is very tough, but I'm like, I would love to see you go on the other side and let me spin a ball at you. I want to see if you can do it. And then you start to realize the difficulty of the sport and the accuracy and everything else that comes with it, the timing. And I think if you can just open up to it and give it a chance and watch it at a high level, like you'll come to really enjoy it and want to continue to watch it.
And also jumping 15 feet in the air might be a little bit hard to do.
Yeah, that's you see these 6'6" guys like Felix touching 12 feet, and you even see guys like me who are 6'1", 6'2", but still getting to like 11'4", 11'5", or who is another good example? Bryce Barrett's another good jumper. Like you get to see that at another level. You don't see that very often.
I will say it never got sorted out when you were in Muncie, but I really want to do an interview where you served volleyballs at me as we were doing an interview style. So if we're ever in the same city in the future, I'll bring a pair of workout. I played goalkeeper in high school, so
okay, so you keep the ball alive.
I got the reactions, I guess. So I'll take your bet. And just one quick more before we go to your hot takes. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Steve Shondell and the whole Shondell family. You worked with Steve Shondell at Muncie Burris, and obviously you're close with his family as a Ball State player. Can you talk a little bit about the legacy that family has built in Muncie?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. Like with Don, I mean, Don started this whole thing. Like he made this possible. So obviously I think he's well spoken of how important he was to this whole thing. And even with Steve, like Steve coaching Muncie Burris, and that program, when you go in there, like that was one of my favorite things that I did an interview actually on Muncie Burris and how I've enjoyed it. And I said, like, yes, it's a smaller gym, it's a high school gym, but like you look around and you see the 25 state championships, you see the 5 national championships, like where they're winning like 6 years in a row. Like they're on some Jordan stuff. Like they weren't stopped. Like you just know you're like the legacy around it. And Steve was like, the one thing I always say, that like I always talk about Steve, is like he's a perfectionist, and you could see it in the way that he coaches, and you would see it in the way that his girls, or like when he and there was never, everyone was being trained. When I was coaching with him, like I was being trained. Like it was like I wasn't allowed to like do some of the stuff, like coach the girls, until I learned the moves. So I had to go through the first like 2 days. It was the first 2 days of like how we stepped to a ball to our left, how we stepped a ball to our right. And then I saw, like, next thing you know, I'm in practice like 3 days later and I'm doing it and digging balls. And I'm like, Steve, he's like, I told you, you just got to listen. I'm like, all right. So like, I know the girls learned just as much from him as I did. And I think that like they've created just this volleyball world around Muncie. And I think you're starting to see like a lot of people, gravitate towards it. And I think that's why obviously like the crowds this year, and I'm hoping for the women's season, they can have another great year and get kind of some of the same crowds, and it'd be really exciting.
Alrighty, on to our probably the most hotly debated and the funnest, most fun, still underqualified, most fun segment of the show. We're gonna do hot takes with Quinn Isaacson. First and foremost, as a Naperville, Illinois native, what's your stance on Chicago style pizza? And is it you have to be in the city type deal, or is it everybody?
No, Chicago style pizza is so good, man. It's so good.
Amen.
Yeah, it's so good. You can find foods like you can find pizza like it, like I live, so I'm in Plainsville, but Naperville is just like the nearest that we could find some of the pizza joints and stuff like that. So like, but I'm like a 10 minutes away from Naperville. But like it's close, I would say, like some of the out of these west suburbs to doing it, but like going to like Giordano's in the city or Maggiano's or anything like that, or like you got to go to one of those two places and you're gonna enjoy your night. Anytime we go to the city just to walk around or Bulls games or anything like that, you've got to go to one of those two places and get deep dish, and you have to. And I've got some East Coast guys that argue with me. I'm like, please stop it. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like this flop of the pizza. I don't know what you guys are doing. Like, it doesn't make sense. And we're here in Cali. Cali does not know pizza. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna give it. I know we've had some arguments with these teammates. I'm like, guys, you think this pizza is good? They're like, we should get Domino's. I'm like, no offense to Domino's, but like, why are we gonna choose Domino's? Like, there's got to be some sort of a home style place that makes some sort of it doesn't have to be deep dish, like something where they're making their own dough. Like, come on.
My thing with Chicago style pizza, I'm from Michigan, but my dad's from Long Island, so we're in New York at least twice a year.
Pizza.
So I've got the New York pizza down. Detroit style pizza is a whole different game. I just don't think Chicago style pizza classifies as pizza.
What would you classify it as? What would you classify it as?
Like a casserole.
No,
you put the sauce on top.
Oh,
but it's still sauce. It doesn't matter. Yeah, like
all of the elements of the pizza are there.
If I can't pick it up with my hands and eat it, I can't pick it up with
it's just dirty.
I can, yeah.
Yeah, you just got to get under. I mean, it's the same thing. Like if you're making a ham and cheese sandwich, if the cheese goes before the ham, or the ham, like, does it change the sandwich? No, it's the same thing. You're just eating. Like, I'm not gonna lie though. Like, I'm a guy that I've heard like a lot of Chicago style. Like, if you're eating Chicago style, you should eat it normally. I like to cut in. I don't mind cutting into it. It's a little bit unlike me, but I don't mind it. Sometimes if I'm wearing something I don't want to get dirty, you got to cut into it. But it makes it well worth it.
And speaking of Giordano's, by the way, a Giordano's opened up 2 minutes away from my house, and it has been the most fantastic thing that has ever happened to me. So,
yeah, it's so good.
I would like to clarify for the record, I don't hate Chicago style pizza. I don't always think it's like, let's go get a slice. It's like, let's go sit down at a meal and get served a fork and knife deal.
Yeah, I agree. I'll give you that.
I've been told this is a very Michigan thing, but I've learned it's a very Midwest thing. Would you put ranch on your pizza even if it was Chicago style?
No. If it was Chicago, I grew into liking ranch, but if it's Chicago style, I don't put ranch in my pizza. Like the pizza of Chicago style, you leave it as it is, because that's. I mean, you put some red pepper flakes on it, some Parmesan. You can get after it on top. But like, I don't know, if we're trying to go somewhere fast and we get like Pizza Hut and they've got ranch, I'll dip my pizza in there. But I'm not messing with the Chicago style. So the most I'm doing, like I said, is those red pepper flakes and everything like that.
So is it really pizza if you can't put some ranch on it?
I think it is. I mean, you can do it. I'm not disrespecting my Chicago pizza. It's already so good.
It's about respect. Yes.
It's about respect.
I'm leaving it. When we go to Neuer and stuff like that, and they started doing the make your own pizza, I was like, every sauce or like topping, like of like the Parmesan, and they have all the. I'm like, put it all on there. Like, just that's how we do it a little bit in Chicago, is with everything. I was like, put it on there. That's fine.
So Andy and I are before the generation where they had make your own pizza at Neuer.
Mm-hmm. What is that?
Yeah, that's big time. That's new. Well, once I went to the buffet, so we like learned our team's a big Neuer team. So when Neuer going down, that's going to hit the team hard. We're going to be devastated. It was La Follette buffet was top notch, and then that got shut down, and then Neuer that got shut down. So I'm like, we're just taking L's right now. But once Neuer went to buffet, they had sandwiches, and then they started to. It's like, I mean, it's just like a do-it-your-own size pizza, and they've got all that. They had pepperoni and sausage and peppers, everything you could want on it. And then in the morning, they had they can make your own breakfast sandwiches now. So you could go bagels, and you could do like they like shape the eggs, and you could put like sausage gravy on it, and then it goes through the toaster, so it's nice. That one though, was not very good. That one didn't really get too warm as it went through, but the pizza was pretty top notch.
You got so screwed.
For those,
and Neuer's gone now, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
For those of you who might not know, at Ball State, Neuer is a dining hall. We're talking about, Yeah.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. No, it's not.
R.I.P.
I will say
Right.
it probably beat the pizza at North. If North Dining's pizza was not good.
No. Well, they've got a lot of other the barbecue area is pretty legit.
Yeah.
So you got to go down somewhere if you're a dining hall. I think pizza, even though they have calzones, which aren't too bad, but I go for the barbecue.
Okay. So who, after you're out of it now, so who will win the 2023 NCAA men's volleyball championship? Give me your take.
Well, here's the crazy thing is that if you go look at that Final Four, if you go look at the Final Four right now, you've got Hawaii who graduates no one. Like Hawaii is the same team with experience. You go look at Long Beach. Long Beach was looking pretty dang good until Alex Nikolov, who was the player of the year, who I thought just beat Caleb Jennis out. He just decided to go play pro. Now I have two of his teammates in our gym, right? Two of his teammates, and I'm talking to him like, oh, like I think I asked him first week, I'm like, is Nikolov going to stay all 4 years? He's like, yeah, he wants to get an education. His brother's coming in 3 years. Like they already got his brother signed, I think. And I'm like, okay. He decides he's going to go play at one of the. He's making a lot of money in Italy right now. He decided to go sign, so he's going to Italy. So now they're going to take a little bit of a dip. And then UCLA, who is the other team, is this. I don't think they graduate anyone either. So UCLA and Hawaii are the same. Penn State, who we share rooms. So my roommate, he's not here, he's outside right now. He's a Penn State guy. They were pretty legit. So it's gonna be a tough battle, and it's gonna come down to if my boy Caleb and some of the other pieces can put together another season. Oh man, it's hard not to say Hawaii with them bringing everyone back. But final answer, I'm going the Cardinals return, and I think they're going to take care of it and win it all. I think this is the year. I think Dona needed 1 year of just get us there just so we can taste it, and then I think next year they win it all. And I think a close second is going to be Hawaii.
Yeah, this season Donham was going easy on them, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think now you'll see the same team, just another level. I think they'll take care of it. But if I had to choose a second team, I'd probably say it's Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. So not necessarily sport entertainment, but why have we not seen a volleyball movie?
That's a good question. There's a lot of I don't watch anime, but a lot of my roommates do. What I'm starting to learn, I think it's a little more common with volleyball players, but there's there's a good amount of volleyball through anime. I think that I've never seen it, but I heard it's pretty good. But I don't know. I think especially you won't see any men's volleyball movies, but they've done a couple documentaries.
Top Gun.
I think are
Top Gun. Come on. What are we talking about? Top Gun.
Yeah, I guess
everybody forgot Top Gun.
Yeah, I guess you're right with that. But
there you go.
A story based around it. I don't know. Most of those movies stick to the main three of baseball, basketball, football. You'll see occasional hockey, but I'm not. My movies are Ball State Sports League. Those movies are good for me. I think those do enough for me. They're the best in the biz. So those are my own volleyball movies. I like those.
I will say.
Dan, continue.
I was just gonna say, SportsLink hasn't gotten to podcasting yet, so Andy and I have that covered.
Yeah.
All right, and then final question for the whole thing here: best Ball State University player to travel with.
That's a good question. I'll tell you who my roommates were in the first place, because I stuck my roommates. I only had 3 roommates over my whole time. Like they kept me pretty much with the same group. So when I was first, like my freshman, I got the chance to travel on every trip. I was with Matt Shevs for my first 3 years. So Shevs was it's funny, he was kind of like our scoring guy. And then when he left, Caleb was my roommate the next 2 years. So you see how that works out. So I doubled my double scoring guys. But let's think. Good roommates. So I'm kind of going off of what people have told me, because there's nothing wrong with those guys. Caleb slept a lot. But I lived with Caleb out like in a hot, like this last year at Ball State, I lived with Caleb. So I got to live with him and travel with him. So that was, pretty fun. But I would have to go with, from what I've heard, I heard that Colin, who I roomed with all 5 years. So I have some experience with Colin of being like my freshman roommate, and I've lived with him the last 4 years. I'd probably go Colin Anslaka, who was our libero. I've heard I'm the guy that like takes care, like this last year with USA, like they put me with the guys that like need to get woken up or they won't make it to like breakfast. So I'm the one that sets the alarm, the one that like taps on the show, like, hey, we're leaving in 5 minutes. Like that's what I do. And the one that's like, hey, let's go. Like no one ever really gets me going because I'm trying to be on time. And what I've heard, and what obviously with being Colin my first year and riding with him, I guess the last 4 years, is he's always up on time. He'll make sure that you're up. Like you can kind of almost sit back a little bit. I would probably say Colin. David Flores, who's one of my really close friends, he's the other setter. I heard he's fun because he loves playing like card games. He's always got cards on him, so like you can play card games with him, and he'll be up on time. But I think my final answer would be Colin Anslacco. I'll say the roommate not to be with, and I'll just say it because I can. And he's one of my good friends, so I'm going to say it. You don't want to be with Brandon Shepard. All right, Brandon Shepard's not the guy you want to be with. And I hope he's listening right now because Brandon doesn't wake up on time. And when you do, now here's the thing. I lived with him this year too. I live with Brandon this year too. And Brandon did a great job at home of me. Like I never really had to wake him up. I just had to open his door and be like, hey, we're going. But at trips, all I heard was that he just would always sleep through breakfast and he never would get up. So we would just go to breakfast without him. So that would be my answer. It would be Colin. If I didn't, Brandon, even though I love Brandon to death, I heard he couldn't wake him up. So it's like, all right, Brandon, I'm not waking you up here.
All righty. Well, you can tag Brandon and Colin and the rest of the men's volleyball team in this. We'd love to get their opinion on the pod, and any of them who want to come on the pod, they can we will happily have them on. Thank you so much, Quinn, for joining us. Yeah. You're an amazing guy. We love talking to you. We cannot wait to see where your career goes next.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. See you.
And that about does it for our interview with Quinn Isaacson. Lovely guy. Always love talking to him. He's just one of the better athletes you'll ever meet in your life. I think that does it for the summer for us, Andy. Maybe
I do believe so.
We'll see.
And if you stayed throughout the whole podcast and you have not looked at our socials at all, I don't know. We have a bunch of we don't have brand similarity between all of our socials, so I can't just say one. We probably need to do that. Low key, but whatever. Anyway, if you saw it all, the guy that we just talked to last week, Drew Plitt, just signed with the Bengals. So we're on our way up. Yes. So NFL player, we got it in the docket. Now we just got a professional volleyball player. So I think we're moving and grooving. Thanks to Daniel Keene.
I told my friend that since Drew Plitt signed, we had a professional football player on our podcast, and she said, and I quote, he was pre-professional at the time, but he is still a professional now, so we're gonna take it.
I'm gonna, you know what? He is a professional football player. I'm sorry. Yes, he is. So I count it. Okay, deal with it.
All right. Unless we get any other special guests, I don't know if we have anything else left for the summer. I'm pretty sure we don't. Andy and I are both on campus in about 2 weeks, so you are gonna start hearing from us in the studio, back in the Unified Media Lab in Muncie. It's going to be very fun. I cannot wait. We are starting season 2 of the Underqualified Knuckleheads podcast, and it's going to be awesome.
Are we 100%? Are we going to call it season 2? Or
I think we're like, once the school year starts, we'll call it season 2, right?
Are we going by semester or just by school year here?
I mean,
we'll talk about that. We'll find out.
Season question. Tune in next time to figure out what season of the Underqualified Knuckleheads podcast
we'll get it hammered out. Yeah.
Awesome. We will see you next time. See you next week.
See you next week. Oh yeah. Hold on.
See you next week. Well, next month.
See you next week or a month, whatever.